I'm Oli Patrick, and this is the podcast that helps you understand your health by focusing on one thing, your energy. Because if you've got energy, you can live fully. Each week, we explore a different part of health, from sleep and stress to food, movement, and mindset, and how it affects the way you feel, think, and live. Let's dive in. So you thought you'd come out of the summer energized, but instead you feel a bit off rhythm, a bit tired, maybe even flat. Well, this episode is your energy reset. We are going to break down why your battery feels low and try and give you a 3-step framework to rebuild that energy. And I've seen this fatigue in my clients. I've seen it in their data, and actually, I've seen it in myself. A huge thanks to you for choosing this episode. As we're a new show, growing our listeners and followers really matters. I promise you that by listening to just one episode each week, we'll change the way you think and hopefully then the way you live. Tap follow now to be part of this journey with us. Why does energy drop in September? Well, here's what's really going on. Summer is going to break your rhythm. In summer, we've got those late nights. You might have a barbecue. You might have airport beers at 6 a.m. because time doesn't exist in Terminal 5. You've been out of sync. One client told me previously he used to go to bed at 2 a.m. every night in August, and now he can't remember how to open Excel on his return to the office. We've got sleep disruptions. We may have a change of alcohol. We've probably got a change in travel. And these all mess with your body's 24-hour rhythm, what we call the circadian rhythm. And your body doesn't love this. It's not thrilled about going suddenly from sangria and late nights to spreadsheets and early mornings. In autumn, we see a change. We see a ramp up of pressure. That work will kick off in earnest again. There is a natural lull in many sectors, maybe not yours, but many sectors lull over summer. Alongside that ramp up of work, schools restart. Responsibility around school drops and school pickups. Diaries fill up. And here's the kicker. Your nervous system is still a bit sluggish. It's still in deck chair mode. And that change of pace is a challenge. We can often refer to this as physiological whiplash. Your calendar is sprinting, but your body is still gently strolling, and it enjoyed that new pace. What we see as well as this change of pace is there is a change in light, and that lack of daylight starts to interfere with brain chemistry. Humans and our energy are so deeply intertwined with the light from our environment, and less light as we increasingly move towards winter months causes circadian disruption. In the old days, we'd have had less time awake as there was less light, but that's not the way in the modern world. Your body's essential 24-hour clock regulates so many things in your body, from serotonin, if you like, the happy hormone, and melatonin, that critical sleep hormone. And these intertwine to affect your mood, your energy, and everything in between. And you might be wondering why now, as we enter into this autumn period, you want to nap at 3 p.m, and you might actually feel a change in emotion, maybe the gentle urge to cry during a supermarket ad on the TV. This isn't a personality flaw, this is September biology. And it's basically the fact your system just needs a bit of a reset, a bit of a reboot to get into the rhythm of this new period. So what is the energy reset framework? How do you get back on track? Well, here's a 3-part framework that you can use to reframe your energy. And these are simple, but they're powerful, and they're designed to actually work with your life where we find you. And as with all things energy equation, it starts by being kind to yourself. Nobody gets all of this right all the time, but just adding a little bit more into your life is always the route forwards to more energy. Step 1. We're going to reset your physical energy. How about you start your day in September with movement before screens? What about something simple like 5 bodyweight squats, or even better, a walk around the block? If you can do that before you begin the doom scrolling, then we might have a massive game changer. Extremely simple, but incredibly intelligent. Years ago, when I was running big health assessments, we saw some of the greatest changes in blood work, in urine markers, in full health screening metrics, when someone just added in a regular morning walk. Nobody in the well-being marketplace is going to sell that to you because there's not much money to be made for you going for a morning walk. But fundamentally, getting out in the morning, particularly into that early morning sunshine, is an incredible thing for your energy and incredible for your health. And it might be as impactful as anything else we cover through the series gone and the series to come. If that morning light and movement can take place before 9 a.m., assuming you've got a relatively normal working schedule, that is ideal. And actually, even if it's cloudy outside, which if you're listening in the UK is probably, that still has a huge impact on your physiology. Your body reads the signal from light in so many different ways. One woman emailed me to say, Oli, I now drink my tea on the patio in my dressing gown. She doesn't care what the neighbours think because she knows that early morning light is going to help regulate the hormones that give her energy for the rest of the day. Now, you've got to work out your relationship with your neighbours. But if we can start to find that natural form of energy through sunlight in the morning, that may affect our relationship with caffeine. How many of us are using caffeine to buy a false energy we didn't get because we haven't adapted elsewhere? So if I really want to optimize a physical reset, can we cut back on caffeine as our first drink of the day and bring in hydration and protein earlier into the day? I've spent years helping people understand what really fuels their energy. And when it comes to daily nutrition, Vitals by Heights is where I start. Most of us still fall short on those key nutrients that support energy, focus, and mood. And that's where Vitals comes in. This is what a modern multivitamin should be. It's advanced, it's absorbable, and it's actually effective. It includes not just the basics, but 20 essential nutrients, including omega-3s and B vitamins, which are vital for brain health and energy metabolism. What sets it apart and why I love it is the science. It's formulated by doctors and dietitians, and it's backed by thousands of studies. It's clinically proven to work. It's built for long-term impact, not just short-term spikes. And as someone who reads the research and feels the results, I believe deeply in this. In fact, I believe in this product so much, I've joined the Heights team as their Chief Energy Officer because I believe they're setting a new standard in supplementation. If you're ready to kickstart your energy journey, start with Vitals. Get 20% off your first month at heights.com/EE or use the code EE20 at checkout. If you could potentially swap that first morning double espresso and some white toast for something a little more rewarding, like, again, good hydration, water and electrolytes, or maybe some eggs, or maybe even a protein smoothie, then that will help balance your nervous system from the off. What do I mean by that? You're not putting your body straight into a state of shock. You're not creating alarm on a body that's going to face lots of alarm throughout the rest of the day, I assure you. So your body loves a protein-hydrated start to the day. And this is really important as the tone we set in that first hour of the day has a big ripple effect through the rest of the day as we go. But evenings matter too. If our evenings now are full of too much blue light, as we swap those outdoor barbecues for sitting in front of the box, that can be a challenge. And naturally, as the seasons change, the meals might go from lighter to heavier, big meals. And we might get drawn into noisy doom scroll sessions that suddenly start to impact on your wind down. Can you use this season to reclaim the calm? Your sleep starts hours before your head hits the pillow. How are you convincing your body that it is able to go into sleep safely without disturbance? And physical energy isn't about, are you working out? This is about the rhythm of your body in conjunction with nature and the rhythm of your evenings about winding down and being calm. And if you get that physical energy framework right, great things will happen. Step 2, we've got some physical energy. Now we must reset our mental energy. Now, mental fatigue or psychological fatigue isn't always about doing too much, but it's often about doing too much with limited or no boundaries. Can you cut down those mental leaks? The pinging phone notifying you every 5 seconds, having 37 browsers open on your computer, and that strange guilt about untended emails in your inbox. How many of the extraordinary volume of inputs entering your brain need to be there? What is the volume of information you are going to encounter today that is needed versus junk? And can you ease back on the junk and the mental load it creates? We again have to be kind to ourselves and remember you're exposed to more information now than anybody in lived history. The information you encounter in just a day, 24 hours, would probably be more than people will have encountered in their entire lifetime. And that was an observation made by Dr. Richard Saul Wurman, and he was the founder of the TED conferences, and it makes me shiver because I wonder what will be the information inputs in 10 years from now if we keep this trend unabated. How do we push back and secure mental energy? Well, again, we look at the morning. Can you protect that first 90 minutes of the morning? What about really restricting our access to emails unless they're critical? What about no meetings if you can help it? Real time to strategize about the day and optimize the time you're going to spend at work. Real quality focus. This is mental prime time. And who owns this time if it's not you? Another thing we should think about is, are we just relentless? Can we build in micro resets? Just something simple like 1 minute breathing. Just pausing to notice, is my breath coming from my nose where I want it or my mouth where I don't? Am I breathing from my belly where I want it or my chest where I don't? Or just a basic stretch during a meeting or between meetings. And here's a wild idea. Could you actually eat your lunch without checking emails? I once challenged a client to go without their phone during lunchtime and do that for a week. And by day 3, this client said they could taste the food again. Now that's extraordinary. And this is progress, not perfection. But ultimately, mental energy comes down to intelligent attention. And you need to manage what is earning your attention and what is wasting that energy without your consent. Step 3, how do we reset our emotional energy? And again, let's be honest, the pressure is real, but perfection is an energy vampire. You do not need a flawless quarter. You need an intentional one. There's a big difference between those two things. Nobody is flawless. You'll know that from this podcast and many others. Can we add joyful routines? What about going for a walk with a podcast in your ears? I know some good ones. What about going out for a coffee, just grabbing something solo away from the noise? What about a cold water dip, something we've spoken about a lot on the energy equation? And what about journaling, which you could do while you're on the loo, better than doom scrolling? That's ultimate multitasking, if you ask me. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to thank our partners for this season of the energy equation, Stride One. They're not just sponsoring the show, they're helping bring it to life in a really exciting way. The guests you hear from this season have been tested using Stride's platform, looking into things like their DNA, their gut, their blood. And this means we can actually see a blueprint of their internal health and start to connect the dots between how they live and how they function. And the reason we've partnered with Stride is simple. We trust them. There's no gimmicks here, no guesswork, real, science-led insights into what drives energy, recovery, focus, and longevity from the inside out. If you've ever wanted to understand your body like this, to go beyond those surface metrics and get real clarity, I honestly can't recommend Stride One enough. You can get a special offer on the exact same test I've used and that our guests are using by heading to getstride.com/energy or just check the link in the description. But how do we set an energy boundary? Is there a hard stop on your work? Maybe no work talk after 7 or 8 p.m. No social media in bed. Find something that is an incubation of your energy and protect it, like your favorite mug. An example of this, I had a client back in the day who set a rule, and that was no more scrolling after brushing teeth. A nice, clear link to a physical boundary. And he said that doubled the peace he experienced in his evenings. Also, if you can move that phone out of your bedroom, we know the emotional energy will thank you for it. I absolutely assure you that will be true. Emotional energy is about protecting what fills you up, what fills your cup, and not letting it seep out into the world, again, without your consent. We're grateful that some of you sent in your listener questions, so let's get to those now.
Hi, Oli. What's a realistic emotional boundary I could have with my partner who always wants to debrief about work in the evenings?
Good question. Good challenge. Without us dipping into marriage counseling, and hopefully you two are blissfully happy, that could be challenging when one of you needs to down tools and emotionally reset, and the other one needs to offload all the challenges and difficulties of the day. I think with all things couples, it's communication, saying, look, I am able to absorb this, but in a definitive window. What you don't want is the whole evening involving this, again, emotional sharing where you yourself have got a full cup already. I think having a definitive block of time, normally over food or somewhere where you are sharing, but not extending that and certainly trying to keep it out of the bedroom. So what we often find is where people need that defrag, that release of what's gone on in the day, that takes place brilliantly with a walk at the end of the day. I don't know if you've got a dog, think about getting a dog, but having an animal or a pet where you would go for a walk side by side, offload what's happened in the day, reset, and then spend the rest of the evening planning exciting things or in joviality or non-serious stuff works well, but condense it to a deliberate period of time earlier in the evening if possible. But most importantly, share that you're not in a position to receive that in those later hours because you yourself need that time to process all the things going on in your life. Maybe that will help. I hope so.
We have another question from a listener called Shane. He has said, how do I actually reduce my digital input when my job is online?
Shane, that is the question of the ages. The world has changed immeasurably without asking our physiology whether we can handle it or not. The question here is, what is the earliest I can down digital tools within the confines of my own life? I think generally what we don't want to do is be accessing the digital world in a period of time where we won't influence it, i.e., I don't want to pick up an email if I'm not going to answer that email in my sleeping hours. So if I'm no longer going to act on the information I'm receiving, can that be the hard stop? And ultimately, everyone's world has gone digital. There's very few analog jobs, very few analog people, but the brain hasn't adapted to that. It hasn't adapted to seeing that light, to going to bed processing information rather than going to bed with a clean slate. So you will have to trick your brain. Now, in practical terms, that could be using blue light blocking glasses to extend your digital footprint into the evening. It could be that you only get half an hour off tech before bed versus the ideal 90 minutes. It could be that you journal after you've finished your last email to just shed whatever is ruminating around in your brain and it doesn't sit there during dream sleep or equivalent. Somehow, your brain has to let go of the digital world and you've just got to find a way that does that within the confines of the lifestyle that you're leading. Not easy. We all face the same challenge, but your brain can't go to bed wired on a digital mainframe and expect to reset properly. It just doesn't work.
Another question from a listener called Rasheen. What apps or tools help with micro resets and focus?
Great question, Rasheen. I think the idea here is it's slightly paradoxical that I turn to a digital element to find a break from the digital world. I think there's great validity in mindfulness and applications that promote either breathing, so intelligent breathing. Breathing is a fantastic way of resetting my nervous system, removing me from anticipating threat to really looking forward to being in a state of calm, and activities that bring me to a singular point of focus through tools like meditation. So of course we have good high street brands for visualizations, meditations, mindfulness, and breath work. They're all extremely good. Anything that brings you into the moment you're in serves really well as a micro reset. And that could be something as simple as a body scan away from tech, that I spend a minute noticing my toes wiggling on the floor, then I notice my calf muscles, then I feel my thighs, then I notice my belly, and I just reconnect with the body that I've sort of forgotten that I'm living in. And anything that brings you into the now. So that could be comedy, in all fairness, something that brings humor and levity, but brings you to the now and stops you planning the next meeting or planning what you're doing tomorrow, will have a great value in micro resets. You can use technology for that. I would still prefer that you use the ultimate reset tool, Mother Nature, and got yourself out into the green or looking at some kind of vista whilst consciously connected with your body with slow, intelligent breath. And as much as we'll come up with clever technology, there'll be nothing as impactful as doing that for micro resets, I assure you. Thank you so much to those listeners who've submitted questions. We genuinely love them. And we always want to make sure this show answers your energy challenges and you get more energy from it. So if you've got a question, don't hesitate to send it in. We'd love to receive it through our Instagram or whichever platform you're listening to The Energy Equation on. Keep them coming. We'll keep answering. And together, let's boost our energy. Where do we recap? Energy isn't just lost. You can recover it, but it requires structure. Think about resetting your energy in this exciting season in 3 parts: physical, mental, and emotional. And like all things, you can't do it all at once. Just one small shift on one of these each day could be a fantastic result for you. So, if this has helped you rethink your energy this month, go for it. And alongside that, do us a favor, hit follow so you don't miss the next episode. And also think about sharing this episode. someone who's walking around like they're jet lagged, like their September reflects the fact they might need a reset too. And if you haven't already done, do check out the High Performance app. It's actually got a full masterclass on there about how to manage your energy with the science, the tools, the real stuff. So go and have a look and tell us what you think. So until next time, keep your energy where it belongs, working for you. Good luck.